where I wasn't able to kind of make decisions and stand by them. I had a really deep sense of sort of imposter syndrome. My confidence sort of plummeted. I was kind of questioning myself, things that I was doing.
Because the moment I was like, no, I'm not going on payroll, I need to invoice. They were like, oh, and let's add, I had my child at 16. So I was more like, no, I can't do that. They're like, child, why is everything wrong with you? You're holding a baby and holding an invoice.
And I spent the money on the offices, and we were getting it all kitted out, and we had a launch and everything. And literally within 4 weeks, the turnover plummeted. And I kept thinking next month it'll be better, and started ploughing in money to keep the business going, to keep the staff on.
I didn't really have that much money. I had my savings, but I don't come from a family of privilege. I come from a working class family. So I had all of these kind of barriers that at the time I didn't realise were barriers. I just got on with it and just moved. I moved without thinking. I had an idea.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur Stories, where I'm joined by phenomenal women from the world of business and entrepreneurship who share their stories, their challenges, their successes to inspire, motivate, uplift, and empower you to start, launch, and grow your own businesses. If you're not already following on social media, please make sure that you follow me on Instagram. I'm at She's the Boss UK, on Twitter at She's the Boss INTL, on LinkedIn, Daniela Genus, and on Facebook, Daniela Genus, She's the Boss. So make sure that you connect. And if you're not already subscribed, please press that subscribe button so that you never miss a notification of when I release a new interview. Today, I'm super excited. I swear I say I'm super excited every week, but this week I'm really excited because I'm joined by Haddy Folivi, who is the founder of Clarity Media and who is a PR and publicity expert, specialist extraordinaire, and she's also my coach. So Haddy, I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
So let's start at the top. Tell us about your journey into business. When did you launch the business, and what was the kind of thing that prompted you to do so? Was there a specific life event, or was it something that you were always kind of destined to do?
There was a life event. I always knew that I was destined to business. My daughter, I had my baby. Oh, my Temi Lolawa. So when I was pregnant, I was working at a local authority as a project coordinator. And I've been there for 5 years. We had a disagreement, I'll say, and it was decided that it would be best if I left, basically. This was after I had my daughter. But after I had her, I basically just lost the love for the 9 to 5. I really wanted to be present with her. Even when I was carrying her, whilst I was on maternity leave, I was thinking it would be so amazing if I could just be running a business. So I think 3 months into me coming back from maternity leave, between 3 and 6 months, I left. I had no backup plan. I had no real savings. I had a baby, a lot of high expenses. And I was like, I'm going to go and do my PR thing. And my husband at the time was like, Haddy, are you sure? Because we had no real savings. But yeah, for me, that was like a big turning point.
So where did the kind of interest in PR come from then?
So I started working as a freelance journalist, back in 97. Makes me feel, whenever I say that, it makes me feel really, really old. I'm not. But I was at...
So that's the main thing.
Thank you. Right, exactly. So I was at university. I was working as a freelance journalist and I loved it. Like, for me, the media has always been my passion. But as you are when you're that age, you're told to get a job. So I went through a string of temp admin jobs to try and do the normal thing. But deep down, I always wanted to be in PR. I always wanted to do all things journalism. It wasn't until I had my daughter that I had the courage and the boldness as a woman to actually step out and do it. So I've been writing since I was 13. The passion has always been there.
Mm-hmm. And how restrictive was it for you then to not initially follow your passions? Like, how did you manage that kind of period between giving up, going and getting a job before you actually went and pursued it with your business?
It literally felt like I was being strangled. You know, when you're in a straitjacket, I felt like I was in a straitjacket for a good 11 something years. Even when I was working, I'd always have Fridays off. So on my Fridays, I'd be writing, I would be trying to maintain the freelance thing and trying to do, freelance PR projects. Having one day a week to work on your business, it's not enough. And I'd start doing something, and on the Monday, I'd be back to my job again. So I'd lose that momentum and that consistency. It wasn't until I really left that I was able to have that consistency in my business. And that was in 2010.
And what was the first steps that you took? How did you, secure new clients? Because I think I always ask this question because people that are sitting at home, they're watching, they're listening, and they're saying, okay, I want to start a business, but what's the first thing that I do? And how do I get clients? So how did you do that? What was the first thing that you did, and how did you get clients, your first client?
First thing I done was I wrote my bio. I wrote like a really strong bio with transferable experience because I'd been working in the media sort of 10 years before. I put that in my bio because I think sometimes we've got really strong things that we can use, but we don't. We just dismiss it. So I put all of that into a bio. I joined the site peopleperhour.com, which is a really great site to get started on. And I put my profile up on there and I started to bid for jobs on there. Interestingly enough, I bid for a job on there, and one of the clients that I bid for, I'm still working with her today, 8 years later. Yeah, it's been an amazing journey because I was a fairly newbie, and since then we've gone on to work on different projects. And she keeps on coming back. We've done award wins. I can't name her because of confidentiality. But we've done award wins. We've done media coverage and more awards. So yeah, but that was how I started, literally on People Per Hour.
Were you scared? Because you said that your husband will say, what are you doing? And you obviously were in an established job role. Were you scared? And how did you overcome any fears?
Not really. I was frustrated, because I knew that I had to get out of that job. It was, if I don't get out, I'm going to go crazy. I wasn't scared. I had a slight backup plan in the sense I had a bit of savings, but it wasn't huge. We had like $6,000 or so. And I had $6,000 over, to last for a few months in order to start making it work. It's not something I would recommend people do because what that does is it can put a lot of strain on your business. As a new business, you can't expect to pay yourself a salary, to have a marketing budget. It's a new business, so you can't expect it to do all of the things that a fully functioning business is going to do. That was one of my biggest mistakes. I had too many expectations. I left my job and expected to start getting paid like a 2,000 plus salary from a business that wasn't established.
You didn't want to start taking the $2,000 out of the savings either, because then that was only going to last a finite amount of time, right?
Exactly. So we had to. And I'm not going to lie, money was really, really tight. And like I said, it put an enormous amount of strain on my marriage. I'm no longer married at the moment, but it wasn't because of that. But things like that can put a lot of strain on relationships anyway. And I think there's got to be agreement. Looking back, I would never recommend it.
It's interesting, and thank you for being so open and sharing, because there are people that I've spoken to who really want to go off and start businesses, but their husband is saying, well, now is not the right time. And I always think of the scene in Waiting to Exhale when Angela Bassett found out that her husband is leaving her, and she's ripping all of his clothes out, and she's saying, she says quite clearly, and I remember watching it when I was little and thinking, I'll never do that. She was saying that she always wanted to start her catering business, and he kept saying, it's not the right time, whilst he was building the business and she stayed at home, and then he left her anyway. And I always remember at a young age, because I can't remember how old I was when I watched Waiting to Exhale, but I remember always thinking, don't ever let somebody tell you now is not the right time, because you don't know how the situation may change, and then you end up left without the business that you could have started because you were waiting on somebody else.
Exactly. At the time, a lot of people said to me, Haddy, you are crazy. Why are you going to leave a stable job? And I knew that I had to leave because of my sanity. It was really making me feel quite ill and quite stressed. And whereas some people had a bit of opposition, and to be honest, even my husband at the time, he was like, Haddy, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. He didn't try to stop me, but there was that, are you sure? There's nothing that anybody could have said to me at that point that would have made me say, yeah, I'm not going to do it. I was going to do it. And I'm really, really glad that I did.
I'm really glad that you did.
Thank you.
So what you said you started on people per hour, and you kind of were bidding for work. What was the first piece of work that you, and obviously within reason that you can actually say, but you got a piece of work outside of people per hour? Somebody came and said, I've heard about you, I want to work with you. Do you remember what that was and how that felt?
Yeah, so I started to work with a business influencer, like when influencers wasn't a thing. And I started to come on social media, and people would just literally started to find me, because what I would do is I'd talk about my results, and the person that I was doing the joint venture with, or the influencer that I was working with, when I got a really strong PR result, they'd say, my PR, Haddy Folivi, and I'd be like, hey, that's me, kind of thing. And so that helped to get clients. I can't remember the specific, but I remember when inquiries started to come in. And being a donut and being quite fresh in business, I didn't know what to charge. I was charging peanuts. I was just happy that they were coming in. So I didn't sit down and do the figures properly. Charging something like ridiculous, like 250, like for a ton of work, basically.
And that's something that I speak to clients about all the time. And even for me, it's been it's been a work in progress, because I think for many people, you kind of feel like, okay, I'm new into this thing. Even if you've got years and years and years of experience, it's like, well, this is the first time I've had experience into this business name on my own, and therefore people are not going to pay me. And it's interesting because as you kind of start to get more clients and you start to charge more, then you start to see that people will pay. It's you being too scared that they won't. But actually, if you say this is how much it costs, people will pay.
Definitely. I mean, pricing it's a confidence thing. A lot of it is a confidence thing. Sometimes it's not that clients won't pay what we're worth, it's just that we don't feel comfortable charging. And therefore we undercharge, and we keep undercharging because we're like, little old me. It's like, it's not little old you. Woman up, man up. Like, you've got so much experience, charge what you're worth.
We've had this conversation quite a fair bit.
So many times.
Confidence, though, I think that's a really important kind of thing to discuss. Where would you say your confidence has come from, and did you just wake up confident? Has it been a battle? Has it been a journey? And what are some of the key things that you picked up on that journey?
It's actually been an uphill struggle. A lot of people don't believe me when I say that I can actually be a really shy person. I say it, a lot of people were like, who? And I'm like, when I was a 20-something-year-old journalist, I'd come into interviews, I'd give a really good media interview, and then after, literally, as soon as I switched the dictaphone off, it was like my superpower was switched off. It was like my kryptonite tonight was gone. And I'd go back to, thank you for the interview, bye. So it's been a long journey. It's been a long process. I would say probably within the last 5 years, actually, of just me actually having to accept Haddy, warts and all, and realizing that I'm not perfect, and just having to do a lot of internal work, realizing where the insecurities came from, actually doing some counselling. And I'm not afraid to say that counselling has really helped me to embrace me and to deal with some of the issues that, to help to unravel some of the issues that kind of helped to minimize my confidence. And I emerged stronger.
I am a huge proponent for counselling. Anybody that follows the series will know I'm always talking about it. I've done counselling. I was doing counselling this year. Thank God that I did, because I was working on catastrophic thinking, and then COVID happened. So I was prepared and well equipped. I love that you also agree with the benefits of counselling. I think for anyone that's trying to run a business, grow a business, scale a business, getting your mental right and getting support there is so important. So yeah, I just want to reiterate that point.
And that's had the biggest impact on my revenue, to be honest. It's not that I can do PR, it's not, but it's actually coming out boldly and saying I'm more than just a publicist. I'm actually a flipping phenomenal business strategist as well. People were telling me for years before I started to do business strategy, Haddy, why don't you do strategy? Like, you're more than just a publicist. And like, clients that have made millions have kind of told me this before, and I'm like, no. And I was like, hang on a second. So I literally, something switched on within me, and yeah, it's made a huge impact.
And it's made a huge impact on me. So again, thank you to those people that told you to do that. What would you say on the journey so far has been the most difficult thing for you to manage? What's been the biggest challenge?
Cash flow has been a big challenge, or it was. I had to really, because quite a few of my projects are retainers, and I built in the retainer model so that I could predict cash flow. When you're a business and you can't predict when your money's coming in, when it's going out, like in the beginning, I still had the 9 to 5 mentality. So I would get paid on the 15th of every month when I was working at the local authority. Come to my business now, the money's not coming in on the 15th. I've got to generate that. And it's just like, oh my gosh, such a big shock and such a big struggle. That's probably one of the biggest things.
And how did you said obviously you've done the retainer thing, but kind of was there a specific point where you said, actually, there's more going out than there is going in this month. I have to sort this out. Let me sit down and work it out. Or was it not as dramatic as that?
It was kind of dramatic. I mean, we had no money. It was as simple as that. I remember, like, there's so many things I can remember. I remember having, like, my son and somebody from church giving us a car because I just didn't have the money to get one. My son's 7 now. But I was literally carting him around in the people carrier, like, on my chest. Mm-hmm. And we're so close now because my son was constantly on my chest, and now I cuddle him and look at him. I'm going so off topic, but it's like, it's such a bond. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of seeing that and not being able to have for my children. I was like, Haddy, you really got to look at this. Mm-hmm. And I started to make sure people paid on time as well, because you could be bringing in 5-6K a month. But if everything is going out on one day and then you have to wait another month, but then you've got, you've got to manage the cycles. So for me, that was a biggie.
Mm-hmm. And it's a biggie for many businesses. And I think I remember, I've done a post about it recently, about how you see so many big businesses, it was yesterday, going out of business or going bankrupt, and you were in the shop a couple of days before and there was no kind of indication that the business was struggling, and it's normally because of a cash flow issue. That's why I always recommend and say to my clients, get your finances and your cash flow under control, because the sales are not actually, as much as people focus on sales, get sales, they're important, but if people are not paying you for 30, 60, 90 days, but your expenditure, you're having to pay your suppliers or whoever within 24 hours, then you can see how businesses then go bust. So
exactly. And personally, I think 90-day cycles for a small business is just death. Like, in my opinion, don't do that. You cannot be waiting 90 days to get your money. It's just like, and I think if you're an SME, companies will understand if you say to them, actually, your 90 days is too long. Can we reduce it? I think sometimes it's just when I was talking to your clients and explaining your terms and making it clear to them.
And being strong with it. Although if you're supplying into supermarkets, I hear that can be like non-negotiable. So just as a lesson there as well.
And so then you have to have a mix of products and services, whereby where you can get what I call instant cash. That might be selling through programs. There's different ways, but I do recommend having a mix of services anyway, because if one's particularly slow in any particular month, then you've got the other one. Never rely on just one source of income for one service.
Mm-hmm. For sure. What has been your greatest success? What are you proudest of?
There's been a few. Nominating a client for an MBE and seeing them get it. Mm-hmm. That has been amazing. I've had one Forbes 30 under 30 winner, and that happened within 9 months of him coming to me. That was amazing. There's been business awards. I can't really, it sounds like I'm really bragging now.
Right,
but
when you've done good stuff, you need to tell people you've done good stuff. That's why I'm asking the question.
Okay, well, multiple award winners, seeing people being in Forbes for like the first time, seeing people have their first piece of media coverage. Yeah, there's been a lot.
So in terms of kind of influence and going back actually to your childhood, growing up, did you have many kind of role models that you saw that you wanted to aspire to be like? And when you look back as well, are there any key traits that you kind of recognize in child like Haddy that have really molded you into the kind of businesswoman that you are now, or have been influential?
I'm very stubborn. That's probably been my biggest trait. That you know, that can be seen as being a blessing or a curse. For me, it's that determination that I get from my mum, who's no longer here. So she was a strong, resilient woman, and I learned a lot of that from her. There were no business owners in my family. I grew up in Hackney. We didn't have much at all. That's an understatement. And as a kid, like, I remember going to shops and again, just not having much in my pocket, having to get food, you know, just being sent to the shop to get food and stuff like that, and just being on a budget. I think it shaped me in the sense that I thought, I don't want to live like this. You know, my parents done what they could. Some turning points was seeing my mum just doing some amazing things, like when she left my dad, and sort of like later on in life. That probably sounds so wrong, like she only done it when she left my dad, but it wasn't like that. But just sort of seeing her go on to do amazing things, and I was like, and seeing her get quality things, I was like, this is the kind of life that I want. And so then, so in terms of traits, being quite hard-headed as a kid, I think has definitely helped business-wise. Actually growing up in Hackney and seeing the mix between the rich and those didn't have much, because in Hackney you could be walking down the street, there'll be like really big middle-class houses and then local authority like properties. So there's a mix, and I think seeing that also shaped me and thinking I want to be on the other side as well.
No, it's funny because you said when your mom left your dad, that's when great things happen. But I have a similar story. When my mom and dad split up, my mom bought a house, she got a really great job, and she was doing really, really well. So the way it happens is the way it happens, right? And actually seeing your mom kind of excelling and me seeing my mom excelling as well, you can't negate the impact that has. And
I didn't mean that to sound disrespectful to my dad or anything like that. Like you said, some things are just the way they are. And she had such a love for quality, and she was my biggest supporter. And I think for me, one of the biggest things was actually her getting to see me running my publicity company around my kids. And being her being able to see her when she was alive. For me, that's a biggie. I was like, Mum, you got to see all that. So
that's beautiful. I think the fact that she did get to see it is a beautiful thing, and a beautiful memory that you can hold, to know that actually she saw me fulfill the destiny that obviously was set within you, even if you didn't necessarily realize it previously. So that's definitely something to be grateful for. In terms of kind of you started the business, you started to build I suppose a support network. Who had been kind of really influential or instrumental in supporting you in growing and running the business, and how did you find those people?
That's a good question. Shah Wasmond, who's a business owner, she's encouraged me a lot, quite a lot over the years. I'd say she's been quite instrumental, even just seeing how she runs some of her own programs. My ex-husband was a great support, like, you know, when I was running it, and, you know, just him encouraging me. Even now, even though we're not together, sometimes we'll have a chat. He might come over and, you know, he might sort of be seeing the kids. We'll have a brief chat and he'll be like, you know, keep going kind of thing. So for me, that's been helpful. Being able to co-parent in peace, that's a whole nother topic. But that, you know, that's been amazing. Friends that I've known for like 15 years, 20 years, you know, Nairi, Natasha, consistent, you know, no matter what I've said that I'm gonna do, they've always been there just cheering me along in my journey, particularly Natasha, who I've known for like 20 plus years. She's known me from university. She's seen the whole journey. So for me, that's just been priceless. They're my family.
I think a lot of people in business underestimate the importance of having a strong support system, a strong support network, because on those days where it is really hard, it's those people that are going to bring you back up, right? And help you to continue pushing. And I think really making sure that you cultivate a strong support system is something that we should do early on in business, so that you have people there that are going to make sure that you stay on the track that even you set yourself on.
Definitely. And I think it's important to have a mix of people that understand about business, but also, in inverted commas, normal people that don't know anything about business, that don't have an interest, but that just support you because you're you. Because sometimes you just want that support, not as, you know, Haddy or Daniel, the business owner, but just as me, kind of thing. Yeah.
How have you found 2020? So I don't think we can go through the interview without referencing it. It's been a tough year for many, it's been a great year for others. How has it been for you, and how have you navigated it?
Probably been one of my best years yet, to be honest, business-wise. I think because I've done a lot of the confidence stuff, this year I've just come out and been like, ah! Kind of thing. That's the only way that I can describe it. So in that sense, yeah, because I spent years cultivating certain things, it's been great. I've managed to train a lot of people all over the world. It's been amazing. Personally, I've been able to spend some time with my kids, even though homeschooling nearly drove me gaga. Too much, just too much.
Yeah, I don't want to revisit that.
No, me neither. But actually today I've got an employee that is starting my 18-year-old apprentice, and that's one of my highlights, knowing that I'm responsible for someone's tax and national insurance and having to do contracts and being able to pour into a young person. That's one of my highlights. It's always been one of my dreams to train people up, particularly young women. So yeah, that's a biggie for me.
As a woman, have you found any particularly, have there been any challenges you experienced on the journey that you feel like you wouldn't have had to experience if you were a man?
No, funnily enough. It's something I've thought about quite a bit, and I'm not sure if my challenges are just exclusive to me being a woman or if they're just general business challenges, but I haven't been able to identify and say, this is because I'm a woman, etc., etc. So not really.
And do you think that's also because of your mindset? Because, and not to say that women don't face particular challenges because they're women, but one of the things that I find is the women that I speak to that are quite focused on the big picture, that are quite confident about the value that they can bring, they're the ones that often say they don't feel like they've been kind of prevented from moving forward because they're a woman, whereas those that do are often the ones that maybe the confidence isn't as high, struggling to kind of communicate their value. Do you think that there's a correlation?
Man or woman, if you can communicate your value effectively, I mean, obviously I know that sexism does exist, but I think communicating your value to the right audience, they will get it. I've got a mix of black and white clients. I've got a mix of male and female clients. Never really been an issue because I constantly communicate my value. And people forget. I'm like, Google me, darn it.
Love that one. Now, making it a little bit more personal for the two of us, one of the things that you've always been very much on my back about is sharing the results. And one of the things that I have felt a little bit uncomfortable with at times is sharing those results. And even speaking to some of my clients, there is often this kind of feeling of uncomfortability. And it's funny because you alluded to this earlier when you said, I don't want to be bragging or something. How do people go about sharing those results without, and not even without, and removing that level of uncomfortability? How do you do that in a way that makes you not feel like you're bragging and not like, oh, everything is about me? And do you know what I mean? I'm saying this in the most inarticulate fashion, but I hope that you get
it. I completely get what you're saying. I think it's about feeling uncomfortable and doing it anyway. And I think sometimes it's a cultural thing. Sometimes I black people were like, don't brag too much because people might think, this and what that. Stuff what people think. It's your business. For the sake of your business, get out there and talk about your results. I think it's about how you articulate it. If let me think how I word this. I personally am not the type to show pictures of my cars and everything like that, because, like I said, nothing wrong. That's what you do, but it's about communicating what you do in a way that's comfortable and talking about your results in a way that's comfortable. That's not me. I focus on the results that we get for clients. I have a barrier, if that makes sense. I talk a lot, but I also have a barrier as well.
No, it's funny because since I've started to share the results more, I've got more business, so it works.
Yes, it does.
For sure. And I do love the idea of, it feels uncomfortable, but do it anyway. It's that same, feel the fear, push through, do it regardless, and that's when you see the biggest impact.
Great things are not accomplished in the comfort zone. I find that whenever I post, got 5 people into Forbes today, the amount of inquiries that I get in my inbox, I'm like, yeah, nice.
What is your big dream?
Good question. I have a few. One is to train a lot of young people and to mentor them, and to start a facility for, I don't want to use the word disadvantaged young people because that just sounds wrong, but just somewhere where they can go and learn about, social media skills that will help them vocationally. That's one of my big dreams. To start an orphanage is another big dream. I've got huge dreams.
The orphanage?
No idea. And potentially even adopting. I don't know quite a lot of the ins and outs. I just know that young people are really close to my heart. I've been blessed in so many different ways, and I just want to be able to create opportunities for them. So that's part of my bigger goal. That drives me to, even when I'm tired, even when I think, can't be bothered with this, I'm like, focus on the bigger picture. When I've got my multi-millions, I can do so much with that. Like, at the moment, I'm good. There's only so much that you can buy for yourself. So.
And speaking of being tired and stuff, where do you get your wellness from? How do you fill up the Haddy cup, so to speak?
I love spas. I'm a spa person, so at least once a month. I don't think I've had the jacuzzi this month, which is just unlike me. Sounds so crazy, but I love jacuzzis. I love essential oils as well. So at home, I've got some products from Neil's Yard. Baths, music. Oh my gosh, I love music. So if I'm singing, if I'm dancing, I'm good. Laughter as well, just telling really silly jokes, cat jokes.
For music, let's do your top three. You're trying to get motivated. You've got a big piece of work to do. What music do you put on? What's your top three tracks?
I think of top tracks right now. New Jack Swing. Oh my gosh, if I put on some Bell Biv DeVoe, poisoned. That will get me. Johnny Kemp, Friday Night, just got paid. Just got paid. It's about money. So anything from that, and a bit of Bruno Mars, believe it or not, because his sound is very similar to that era. Yeah. Even some 80s pop as well, but mainly New Jack Swing will always get me.
I love that. TV show you want to just mung out on the sofa? What are you watching?
I don't watch that much TV. I'll have an occasional Netflix, but I don't sit still long enough, to be honest. Like, I'm more than like to reading the business books. Like TV is just long sometimes.
This is true. Which goes quite nicely into She's the Boss recommends 3 business books or personal development books or even autobiographies, biographies that have made an impact on your life. Did I say 3? It's 3. One. 3 you can, but you only need to give me 1.
Okay, so there's a book called, oh my gosh, I should know this. Totally forgotten the name of that one. Let me give another one. Duncan Bannatyne. It's a really unusual one, actually, but Duncan Bannatyne, that was one of the Dragons and Dragons Den, he wrote an autobiography about his story. That was amazing because he just talks about how he got gym after gym after gym and how he built his empire. I found that quite interesting because he's from humble roots. He's a Scottish guy, like just really humble roots. So that had a very big impact.
3 pieces of advice that you would give to a young woman or a man sitting at home listening to this, watching. What 3 pieces of advice would you give to them? They want to start a business or they're in the early stages of running their business.
First thing I would say is don't go by what you love. That sounds really crazy because everyone is talking about do what you love. Is what you love does it make financial sense? Because if it doesn't, then don't do what you love. Second thing would be to watch your cash flow. I know we talked about it earlier, but that can really make or break you. And third thing is surround yourself with good advisors. I mean, even today, my accountant, I run most things by her. I sent her an email today about something I wanted to do. She was like, no. And I was just like in my head, I'm thinking, why? I might just do it anyway, but I'm not going to because she said no. So, and I can see why she said no. So it's good. It's really important to have good advisors.
Well, I will second that because you are mine.
Thank you.
And, just as a final ode to Haddy has changed my life this year. So I want to say thank you so much because I don't think, well, I'm sure you will know because I'm always yabbering on about it, but you've made such a profound impact on me, on my business this year. The business is doing the best year that it's ever done. And that is by no coincidence. It's because of you pouring into me. So I want to say thank you for that.
It's because of you. Like you're an easy piece of work in the sense that you take action. You're not long with it, and for me, it's just been a real blessing and a joy being able to. I can't wait to meet you in person.
I know it's so crazy. We've never actually physically met because I feel like we have.
It feels like it. I know, but it's been a joy, and I would say it's because you actually do the work. It's like you take the advice and you're humble with it. Like you're just so incredible, and I know next year's gonna be even bigger. I see millions.
Well, fingers crossed.
No, fingers crossed. We see it. Take it.
Yeah, no. I said to my husband today, look, we need to be in a position where if I decide that I just want to get up and go to Jamaica tomorrow, that we can go. So that's the plan for 2021. Make enough money that I can just book a flight because I feel like it. That's the plan.
Yeah, and you will.
Thank you. People want to find out more about you, about your business. What platforms can they find you on? Share your website, share everything.
So claritymediacomms.com. You can also find me on Twitter, Haddy Folivi. If you still don't know after this interview, Google me. I'm all over Google. Google my name, y'all.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on here, for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And as usual, if you've been watching and there's anything that Haddy said that has resonated with you, please like, please share in your networks, please leave a comment. And make sure you subscribe. And if you're sitting watching and thinking, actually, now is the time for me to take some action myself, and I've got a business, I need to grow the business, and you need any publicity and PR support, get in touch with Haddy. If you need some business systems, processes, vision, strategy stuff, get in touch with me. Drop me
She's the boss.
Drop me an email to Daniela at she'sthebossintl.com. I have some really exciting programs coming up in January, including a business accelerator, a sprint for growth accountability group. So if you're interested, drop me an email. And make sure you tune in next week, Sunday, for another She's the Boss Female Entrepreneur story. And have a great week. And thank you again, Haddy.